Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk, Seymour officials and residents are voicing their objections to the large influx of immigrants over the past few decades.
Why is Seymour, Indiana, a small town in southern Indiana, why is their non-native population now 36%?
But with President-elect Trump promising mass deportations, immigration advocates are worried about human rights violations. State officials and lawmakers are threatening to defund Indiana University over its continued association with the Kinsey Institute.
We will make sure that IU is in full transparency, that IU is not using taxpayer dollars to fund something that is rooted in this wickedness.
IU says it's following the law and no state dollars fund the institute. And Mike Braun issued a slew of executive orders after being sworn in as Indiana's new governor this week. These stories and more right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. New Indiana Governor Mike Braun says he wants to empower the next generation of Hoosiers to pursue freedom and opportunity without fear. Braun was sworn in Monday as Indiana's 52nd governor. In his inaugural address, Braun says states like Indiana should be taking a bigger leadership role nationally.
Built on the shoulders of the fearless, hardworking Hoosiers, small business owners, talented entrepreneurs, persevering leaders who laid the foundation upon which we will build.
Among Braun's first acts as governor was to sign a series of executive orders that begin to remake the administrative side of state government. Braun says he wants to streamline government to ensure it works better for Hoosiers. The executive orders include plans to eliminate 25% of state regulations over the next 4 years, eliminate degree requirements for state jobs wherever possible, and shuttering the Office of the Chief Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity Officer. Well, for more on the slew of executive orders Braun signed Wednesday, we're joined by Indiana Capitol Chronicle senior reporter Casey Smith. Welcome to the show, Casey. So one thing that jumps out is Braun's doing away with DEI initiatives that his predecessor, Eric Holcomb, installed in 2000. What's been the reaction to that?
Yeah, so in Holcomb, a few years back, he established Chief Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity Officer, and Braun, in his first week, that was one of the offices that he said he's going to close. And then in state government, like you said, he's wanting to bring an end to DEI initiatives and policies across state government. Republicans have obviously been in support of that. There's been a pretty swift call out from Democrats at the state level saying that this is a move backwards and that this is not going to help the state attract new talent, which is one of Braun's goals. And pretty much it's been pretty widely negative from Democrats.
Yeah. So Braun's also tasking the Office of Management and Budget with creating a dashboard to monitor effectiveness in state agencies. So what's he hoping to accomplish there?
Yeah, so among Braun's initiatives, the new governor's initiatives are to make state agencies and state employees more effective at obviously a lower cost. So part of the goal of that dashboard is to keep track of what state agencies are spending, how they're coming along with different initiatives, what kind of progress they're making, how long it's taking, with the goal being to be accountable to taxpayers who are funding those state agencies and employees. Not a whole lot of details exactly about how that's going to shake out. There's some time before that dashboard has to be put in place and be effective. But the new governor said he definitely wants that to be one of the new things that are created.
Yeah. So another order removes requirements for some state job openings. What's that about?
Yeah, so I mentioned that among the governor's initiatives are to attract more talent. And he is thinking that by taking away largely certain degree or licensing professional type requirements that are already currently in place for a lot of those state jobs. He wants state agencies to go through, look through all of the new and current and future job openings to determine if those requirements are actually necessary or if they're in line with industry standards outside of government. And he has directed agencies to remove those requirements or tweak them to make more applicants qualified so that, again, in Governor Braun's thinking there is that we will be able to get a wider talent pool and folks who may have different types of abilities that aren't gained from a higher education space like college or university right now, for example, that those folks will be able to get benefits from them in state government.
In case it's just really quick, just have a few seconds left, but is it surprising that Braun issued 9 pretty expansive executive orders right out of the gate?
Not so much. There were definitely quite a few, but if we look back to previous Governor Daniels' first day, for example, he ended collective bargaining with an executive order. It was expected that we would see some from Braun, and this is what we got, but not surprising.
Casey, thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
A potential overhaul of the state's Medicaid expansion program would include changes such as caps on enrollment and limits on lifetime eligibility. The overhaul of the state's Healthy Indiana plan would also reintroduce a work requirement proposal. The federal government previously blocked that because it could lead to a loss of coverage.
If the state of Indiana were to drop its Medicaid expansion or any limits it creates to its current Medicaid expansion, for people below 100% of federal poverty, that marketplace solution is simply not there.
Cuello says a majority of people who lose Medicaid coverage do not go into the federal marketplace, and the proposed policies have a short-sighted view. A cannabis legalization coalition says moving Indiana directly to full adult legal use is the best way to ensure a regulated market that also addresses public safety concerns. It's the latest push to get Indiana to join the majority of states with at least some form of legal cannabis. Michigan, Illinois, and Ohio have all legalized recreational and medical cannabis, while Kentucky has legalized medical marijuana.
To be clear, this is not about promoting cannabis use. It's about addressing the reality of its presence in our society with a responsible, conservative solution that upholds our principles of limited government, law and order, and the protection of families.
Van Nader, a Republican, is authoring a bill this session that would fully legalize cannabis for adult use and establish a regulatory framework for its sale in Indiana. Governor Mike Braun has said he's open to discussing medical cannabis. Last year, the state legislature banned Indiana University from using any state money to fund the Kinsey Institute. But as higher education reporter Aubrey Wright reports, some Indiana leaders say IU is not complying and that the university should lose all state funding.
Representatives Larissa Sweet and Craig Haggard, Comptroller Elise Nishala, and Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith are demanding more information about funding of the almost 80-year-old Institute on Sex and Gender Research. They joined other critics of Kinsey at a press conference hosted by conservative activist group Purple for Parents United.
The negative impact of Alfred Kinsey and the Kinsey Institute has been much more damaging and ravaging to our culture and our children over the decades since its inception.
IU says it is complying with the law passed in 2023 and that the Kinsey Institute doesn't use any state funding. Despite IU's documentation and correspondence, some state officials still believe the university isn't following the law. Sweet says she wants more proof of IU's compliance, or the legislature could use the power of the purse.
If they do not, it is up to the legislature to hold them accountable.
Sweet is continuing to tout unproven claims about child sexual abuse in the Kinsey Institute. At the press conference, speakers also frequently referenced conspiracy theories and unproven accusations surrounding the Institute's relationship with Nazis, Jeffrey Epstein, and pedophile networks. Beckwith says he and Governor Mike Braun will make sure tax dollars aren't going toward the Kinsey Institute or any woke things.
It will be what is virtuous, what is right, what is true, and what is just.
While some in Indianapolis are speaking out and threatening funding, there's support in Bloomington from the campus community and local lawmakers. The Kinsey Institute brought in millions in donations and pledges after the legislature eliminated state support.
I think they thought somehow the Kinsey Institute would collapse if they took away all this tax money. But in fact, it doesn't get that much tax money. And so now they're trying to come at it again.
So far, no one has officially proposed new measures against IU or the Kinsey Institute. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
The number of immigrant and Latino people in Seymour increased by 174% over the last 2 decades. That's according to the Brookings Institute. President-elect Donald Trump has pledged mass deportations and harsher penalties for immigrants, but as Benta Boutier reports, community advocates and officials are concerned this approach will violate people's rights.
Attendance at Seymour's City Council has been up in the last year after resident backlash to a proposed immigration welcome center.
Roll call, please. Mr. Bove. Mr. Beatty. Here. Mr. Terrell. Here. Mr. Hackney. Here. Mr. Hubbard. Here.
Only 2 attendees spoke during the council's Monday night meeting. Both brought up the city's response to immigration.
Are we still of the policy that we're not going to book for just driving with never having a license?
Bob Beatty joined the city council in November. He's lived in Seymour nearly all his life. Seymour's population has increased by more than 5,000 in the last 3 decades, largely driven by immigration. The town's Hispanic and Latino population was less than 1% in 1990. Census data says Hispanic and Latino people now make up nearly a quarter of residents. State Rep Jim Lucas of Seymour introduced a bill in the state legislature that would allow public schools to deny enrollment to undocumented students. He says educating those students, especially those learning English, is costing taxpayers large amounts of money and impacting the progress of other students. Beatty says Seymour wasn't equipped for the demographic change.
The fact that immigrants, legal or illegal, doesn't matter how you characterize it, are taking up housing units that local folks had to move out of for various issues there. Some of us are coming to realize it's unsustainable.
Before he joined city council, Beatty helped administer a Facebook group that he says is meant to raise awareness of immigration's effect on Seymour in Jackson County. Commenters on the site say businesses profiting from cheap labor enable this situation.
This is a massive operation that's just not happening organically. Why is Seymour, Indiana, a small town in southern Indiana, why is their non-native population now 36%? That's the question that people are asking here.
He says federal policy, non-governmental organizations, and large businesses all play into the increase.
It's not just Seymour, Indiana. It's not some, I've used this term before, pissed off old white guys in Seymour, Indiana that are upset over this. It's happening across the country.
Seymour City Council and Jackson County Council passed resolutions asking Indiana's legislature to implement harsher penalties for drivers without a license last month, which could indicate someone is undocumented. But Seymour's attorney has concerns about unlawfully detaining people.
There are things that can be done to solve an issue that don't infringe upon the rights of other members of the community.
In October, Rokita issued the town a civil litigation demand with a question on whether Seymour is a so-called sanctuary city in violation of state law. The town's chief of police says immigration is a federal issue, but his department readily works with ICE.
They would run operations out of our upstairs training room. There were numerous ICE agents that have access to the building with key codes to the back door.
State law precludes law enforcement from detaining someone just for not having a driver's license. But explaining and enforcing laws to people new to the area is a challenge.
Most of our interactions with immigrants is usually driving stuff.
The director of Su Casa, a group supporting Hispanic and Latino people in Bartholomew and Jackson counties, says increased attention to immigration has been harmful for her staff and the people she works with. Her own parents immigrated to Seymour in the 1990s. She attended school in Seymour and graduated from Ball State.
A lot of our staff has been nervous or might have expressed feeling unsafe or unwelcomed. And then we also received that feedback from some of the families that we serve as well, as feeling a bit of confusion or a bit of disappointment in what a narrative that has been expressed pretty loudly.
Her organization helps people connect with health, education, and social resources.
They also want to be connected to social supports and faith-based supports.
It served 1,600 households in 2024, which Caceres says takes a high degree of trust.
Especially communities that might be vulnerable or underrepresented, is really hard work and takes a lot of time and can be broken with the snap of a finger.
Su Casa expanded into Jackson County in 2020. She adds legal documentation is not an either-or distinction. People can be on DACA or applying for a green card, and the pathway to citizenship can take years.
It's not you're undocumented and then you fill out a paper and you're documented. That's not how it works. It's really complicated. It costs thousands of dollars.
President-elect Donald Trump has 100 Day 1 executive orders, amounting in billions of dollars, including for migrant detention centers and completing the U.S.-Mexico border wall.
People have a lot of questions. People don't know if they should continue investing in their immigration journey. There's just a lot of unknowns right now, which is hard. I know for us, we still keep true to our mission and our vision and our kind of focus to support our communities.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Bente Boutier.
Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. A program at IU's Maurer School of Law offers free services for victims of domestic violence, stalking, assault, or harassment. And Ellettsville officials testify at the State House asking for a cut of the Monroe County food and beverage tax. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
You have unleashed the best storytelling ever.
Migration is freedom to Black America.
There's much about me that you don't know.
Let's go, baby.
The age of dinosaurs still continues.
You didn't know that, did you?
I think we may have solved our mystery. All of these movements are expressions of hope.
It's better than any movie script I've ever read.
It's an incredible story.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Ellettsville Town Council member William Ellis is speaking out at the State House in favor of a bill that would return certain tax revenue to the town. House Bill 1080 would allow revenue generated in Ellettsville from the Monroe County food and beverage tax to go back to the town. Currently, tax revenue returns to either the city of Bloomington or the county for economic expansion projects.
We're getting no value for this money going in. There's already special legislation in a sense written to make Bloomington a stakeholder and Monroe County, but whereas any mention of any other municipality.
Monroe County Commissioner Jody Madeira says Ellettsville does need help with its transit issues, but argues the county food and beverage tax is supposed to be narrowly focused on certain projects, such as the convention center expansion. Indiana University is raising pay for graduate students with part-time research or teaching duties. Those students will earn a minimum of $24,000 a year, but that's still less than what the Indiana Graduate Workers Coalition wants. They're calling it a minuscule raise. The union is asking for an $11,000 increase from the current salary of $23,000. Plaintiffs in the case action lawsuit alleging serial sexual abuse over decades in the IU men's basketball program are adding longtime trainer Tim Garl as a defendant. Garl, who has been in his position since 1981, is accused of knowing about but not preventing unnecessary rectal examinations on players by Dr. Brad Bomba Sr. The amended complaint also added as a plaintiff John Flowers, who played for the Hoosiers in the 1981-82 season. The Indiana University Maurer School of Law has offered Bloomington residents help obtaining protective orders since 1989. Higher education reporter Aubrey Wright explored the free service offered to victims of domestic violence, stalking, assault, or harassment.
Between casual conversations and lighthearted simulations, Indiana University Maurer law students brushed up on a heavy topic, working on cases involving domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and harassment. Student director Grace Alvarez Rosario is leading the training for the Protective Order Project.
Feel okay with that, or do we have any questions?
She knows the job can be tough, but it's also rewarding.
How can survivors take this awful experience that they've lived through that nobody else is going to be able to relate to in the same way that they can, and just turn it into something beautiful, turn it into something more?
Protective orders are civil, not criminal, orders from a judge that prevent perpetrators from contacting or harming a victim. They could be a temporary restraining order, a no-contact order, or a civil protection order. If a perpetrator violates an order, they could be arrested.
If opposing counsel calls the office, do not respond.
Once a survivor contacts the Protective Order Project, an experienced volunteer will request information before officially taking someone on as a client.
They'll be asking the questions, writing down the incidents, making sure we get random stuff that people don't really think about, like birth dates, addresses, witness information.
If their needs match the project's services, survivors will sign agreements and learn about the next steps. With the Protective Orders Project's faculty and attorneys work with Maurer law students to help clients.
We use certified legal interns who are allowed to go and practice in court.
Faculty Director Marion Williams helps make the project into what it is today, a service that benefits students and clients. The project works with Maurer's Civil Protection Order Clinic and its director, Amy Applegate.
It is a nice opportunity for students, and there is a need in our community for this.
There are a few ways a case could go. Clients might attend a hearing with a judge, though sometimes judges will grant protective orders without hearings. Attorneys could also send a cease and desist letter or do a settlement agreement that ends a dispute. And even if there's a criminal case in the works, victims can still seek a protective order.
They come to us for any number of reasons, or sometimes we help them file their protective order. But there are times when people have other options that might be more suitable for them.
With research into psychology and intimate partner violence, Applegate helped create the method for screening the project's potential clients. It helps volunteers know if someone needs to be referred to a victim's advocate.
And that can happen with Middleway House, with whom we have a great relationship, or if we are representing an IU student with the IU Office of Student Advocates.
And Protective Order Project volunteers go through specialized training on domestic violence and other sensitive issues. Williams says the project's volunteers use what's called motivational interviewing.
To build that rapport with the client, make sure that they can trust us and sort of undo those layers of abuse or emotional neglect that they have experienced for a number of years.
Sometimes a case isn't the right fit or it's too complex, but Alvarez Rosario says volunteers will still discuss other legal options.
The way that I like to phrase is that we make sure that we're with them as much as they're with us.
In these cases, families are fighting, friends are against each other, and survivors are trying to recover. It can be heavy emotionally, But Alvarez Rosario says she knew the Protective Order Project was right for her career because of its focus on empowering survivors. And clients are thankful.
She was like, I just want to thank you for being so empathetic, because everyone that I've talked to about this has just been like, why are you acting this way? Why are you reacting this way? And you just heard me out, and you validated my feelings, and you held my hand this whole process.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
And Monday is Martin Luther King Day, and there are a couple of events in Bloomington to honor the civil rights leader. IU is hosting its MLK Leadership Breakfast at 9:30 a.m. at Alumni Hall in the Union. City of Bloomington hosting its MLK event 6 p.m. at the Buzzkirk Chumley Theater. That's the end of this program, but our work continues online. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller-Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger & Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.